What's the deal with 401ks? Dolph, I had to give you a little Seinfeld reference only because I knew you would love that. What's going on? My name is Jeff Miles. I am joined right now with Dolph Janis from guardyoursavings.com. I want to make sure you have that website, guardyoursavings.com. First of all, you can get the podcast there, the Guard Your Savings podcast, but also all the information from everything we're going to be talking about today. And Dolph, when it comes to the 401k, there's an article, got this from USA Today, and there's a couple of economists out there. They're on this big push to basically take away the pre-tax 401k programs and the pre-tax IRA programs, saying they should be abolished so that they can then use those tax dollars that people would end up putting into the tax system to maybe offset some of the problems they're having with Social Security, and saying that it only favors the rich and that nearly $200 billion a year is lost to tax services. And then maybe they could use that to help Social Security out because, you know, they're saying 10 years from now, Social Security could be diminishing. It almost feels like all these factors that the government kind of has their hand on, there's this 10-year plan of, is the government even going to make these programs and things like that for people's retirements available anymore? What do you tell people if they have questions about 401k right now when it comes to their retirement?
First of all, great question. I'm glad we get to talk about this. I've actually been yapping about this with some clients right now that have 401ks that are worried about the stock market and losing their money as they go into retirement. And now putting this extra tag along on there, it's like, oh, you might not even have a 401k. First of all, economists don't want to say, hey, how much they're making per year. Second of all, I look at the lottery system, like the North Carolina state lottery system, where all the proceeds go to the schools and the roads and stuff, but there's no documentation of 100% of that money going there. Right. The old stuff your pockets, make me richer, I don't worry about you. I mean, Social Security, we talked about prior podcast, I think is one of the most important aspects of a supplemental income in your retirement. And if you use Social Security correctly, it will supplement your income. IRAs, whether it's a traditional, whether it's a simple, whether it's a Roth, the tax-free version, they're necessities that you need to put in place to have multiple resources for what I talked about, income when it comes to retirement. It's simple as that. Yeah. 401ks, a lot of companies don't offer them, but the ones that do, some match, some don't. But it's another way of saving for your future, which is a big thing I like to call sacrifice.
Right.
And sacrifice in life is a lot of things that you basically have to sacrifice yourself to whether you want to make yourself better. I mean, like you're on a golf course, you just knocked one into the rough and you have like a 5% chance of going to the green. And it's like, well, just take the sacrifice, knock it back out in the fairway, and boom. I don't know if you saw that U.S. Open a couple of weeks ago.
I did, yeah.
Bryson DeChambeau just did that. He was driving the rough like he did all day long. And what was he doing? He was sacrificing the next shot to put himself into position to make a par or better. And he did, and made an up and down for the ages. But if he decided to be one of those aggressive people, like people that are aggressive in the market, aggressive for their money, and go for the green, guess what? Bad things can happen. Now, when you're talking about sacrifice for a 401k and getting rid of a 401k, which I hope never happens, and if they abolish IRAs, this world, I don't know what they're going to be creating for it, because what are you going to save your money in? A checking account at the bank, 0.25%.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you want to put your money? I mean, how about 403Bs, 457s? Are they going to get rid of those as well? There's words I want to use that are not allowed to be on the airways for it, but they're saying it's for the rich. Well, Jeff, most of the people that are doing very well in life, I don't like to use that word rich, doing very well with life, made sacrifices when they were young because they didn't have any money. And they were told by their parents, put money away, and they did. Over a 20, 30-year time frame, they have this excess of money because they did it the right way. What are the kids being taught today? What are the millennials being taught, Jeff, right now? They're being taught to, we were just talking about AI, let somebody else do everything for you.
Exactly.
10, 20 years ago, I mean, I'm 55 now. I was 35 years ago, 10, 20 years ago. Boom, if I would have not done anything, I'd be in a different position today than I was then. How many times do you go buy a coffee a week? You personally?
Me personally, I don't, because the cost has become so insane. you could go back 5 years and I was paying, let's say, $4.50. The same coffee now costs almost $8.
Yeah. How about a soda for lunch?
I just got a soda at lunch today, and that's $2, and it doesn't cost them $2 to provide that soda for me. And they can mark it up at the same, and I get they're going to make their profit, but it's gotten kind of crazy and out of control.
Yeah, well, you know those K-Cups for coffee?
Yeah.
They're like 30 cents, 40 cents a piece. You can make that at home, put it in a big jug, and bring it with you. You don't have to have that fancy Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts mug. Correct. And spend $3.50 for a cup of coffee every day for the whole week, and you've just saved yourself $50 for that week. Same thing with Coke. You buy a 12-pack of Coke for $4. You've just saved yourself, boom, all that money for the week. That's called a sacrifice. That sacrifice, boom, you save $5 alone a day, saving from money that you probably don't need to spend. Now, if you want to throw in there a few drinks a day, a couple cigarettes a day, a cigar a day, all the things that you really don't need, but you want to do because you want to enjoy life, I don't want to hear about those people later in life saying, I don't have any money because I didn't do it correctly. It's a sacrifice you have to make of a percentage of what you make, put it towards your future, because God knows you're going to need it down the road, because Social Security is going to have changes. But too many people, 80, 90%, according to different studies, live on Social Security alone. Now, if these economics get rid of, according to this article I was reading, because they're saying, we could save $185 billion a year in lost revenue. Well, how can a politician, if I get in trouble with this, I'm fine with it. But how can a politician with a salary of $135,000 make $4 million last year?
That's a great question, because I'm sure a lot of people wonder, where does all that supplemental income, where is that coming from?
Exactly. And it's like, well, that's a lot. That's a big difference. 4 million from 135. Okay. I'm not going to not mention names to save the guilty, as one would say.
Yeah.
But as long as there is a savings vehicle out there, whether it's a 401k, a 403b, an IRA, a Roth, an annuity, or something that you can put money away in a tax-deferred way and put it towards retirement, take advantage of it. Diversification, and that's what we talk about ourselves at Clear Income all the time, is diversification to say, having money to live on today, have money to live on tomorrow, and never money that you never plan on using, but it's knowing it's there in case of an emergency. Do
you feel like with the way that things are going, and especially from the government's aspect, you look at retirements from the past. Our parents and our grandparents, they had pensions and things like that. And I'm not saying it was an easy way to retire back then, but at the same time, they had those that were kind of provided by employers, and employers don't do that near as much anymore. And so you are kind of left to going through a 401k or an IRA to save that money for down the road. If they start to take away these kinds of programs, and then there's also the idea that Social Security could change, and that's a constant conversation and battle. Eventually, we are already talking about how difficult it is for people to retire. Taking away these programs, does that not make it even worse?
Even worse is not even a fair statement.
Yeah, people are not going to be able to retire at all.
And the thing is, we were talking about before, is look how many jobs are getting diminished every day, every week, every month because of AI. And people are thinking, it's so fascinating. Yeah, I think it's really cool to watch a robot make a hamburger. It is really cool. But at the same point, that could be a human being there making X amount of dollars per month and helping support the economy. Just my 2 cents. But this is not grandma's cookies anymore. Jerry, this cookie is just, ugh.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't eat this. It doesn't have the right things. Like, well, I'm sorry, I don't keep the right food in the house for you.
Right.
As Kramer always says to Jerry, or Jerry says to Kramer, and it's like, but the same time as when you went to grandma's house and she made those cookies, or she made her meatloaf, or she made her lasagna, it was just like, I can't have that. That was yesterday's retirement,
right?
Where they were feeding you ways to save money through pensions, through 401ks, through employee deferred benefit plans. They were having this. Those are now being eliminated, and they're falling down, and they're being smaller and smaller. So now people can't count on pensions. And then, God forbid, how many pensions have defaulted in the last several years? You work your whole life, and then boom, it's gone. So it's different options, and that's what we like to educate people. Know the strategy. If you do have a pension, you're lucky enough to have a pension, or a 401k, and you turn 59 and a half, and you're over that, know your options of what you can do with it. You don't have to do what they tell you.
Right.
Get a second opinion. And a second opinion, it's just amazing how independent agents like myself can give a different second opinion than a captive agent who says, this is the one way we can do it versus there's multiple ways of doing it. But at the end of the day, it's your money. keep it, spend it the way you want to. But if you don't save, it ain't going to make a difference anyway.
So when people are talking to you about their 401ks, not just from the perspective of where do I need to have my allocations within the actual investment part of it, but when it comes to the drawing out, I'm sure a lot of people, if they're not working with a financial professional of some kind already, they're probably coming in and there's probably a lot of confusion about how that 401k actually works, what they can actually do with it as far as whether or not they're allowed to make changes within their 401k as far as the investments are concerned. And then also, once you do hit that 59.5 mark, what they can do if there are other options to maybe move that money into other places.
That's a wonderful question, Jeff. You just teed it up on the par 3 from 150 yards with an 8-iron. It's literally, most people, when you ask them, where's your 401k at? They're like, I don't know.
Right.
Who's your custodian? I don't know. What's it doing for you? I don't know. When's the last time you looked at it? Well, I look at it every day, but what's it doing? I don't know. It goes up some days, it goes down some days. I go, what's it invested in? What are the allocations? I don't know. I just trust they're doing it the right way. That's most people's answers on a 401k. Yeah. But the closer you get to 59.5 and 60, you ask that same question. Surprisingly, these people know all the answers.
Right.
And they're like, okay, because my question, when you have a 401k or you come and see us, we're sitting down for a consultation and we're looking over a portfolio. First question is, I said, what do you want this money to do? It's going to do one of three things. Do you want it to accumulate? Do you want to use it for income? Or do you want to use it for legacy planning? There's really nothing else you can use it for. Right. And they're like, well, I really don't know. I said, okay, that's fine. But do you have your income set first? Well, that's the question you ask for. When you're looking at your retirement planning, especially with a 401k or a pension after 59.5, ask yourself, what is the end game for this money? And some people is like, I want it to make as much as possible. Okay, everybody does. That's living in the dream world. You want to make as much money as possible with no risk. It's potential to do that. But are you ever going to plan on spending it? Well, guess what? You are, because eventually when you retire, the hardest day of your life is the day you retire because you start paying yourself your income.
You're your own boss at that point.
Yeah. And okay, yeah, so your account grows from 500,000 to $1 million. Let's just say you've done well, you've had the right reallocations, you've been paying attention and stuff. Now you're retired, you got the $1 million. Congratulations. Now what? Well, what's your cost of living? What's your insurance cost? What are your kids' costs? What are all the intangible costs? How long is that $1 million going to last? And what do you do? And then the little sparks in someone's head start spinning, going, oh boy, here we go again. I don't like having to think. This is why I want you to help me.
Right.
I can't help you unless you help me at the same point.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it, is that when people do come to see a financial professional, someone like yourself, Dolph, who can sit down, you got to be able to give them the answers to the questions that you ask. You've got to be able to kind of get to a point of knowing, what do you want to do? I'm sure a lot of people don't sit around thinking, well, what do I want to do with my retirement money? They just think that it's just going to keep them going, so to speak. But there's no real plan with that money. And especially when you're looking at like a 401k, if you're somebody that has been putting money in that for, 20, 30 years, you've probably got a pretty decent amount of money in there. How you use that money is going to dictate what you want moving forward, correct?
Oh, 100%. I mean, look at it this way. How many times on a Tuesday you're planning for the weekend?
Well, that is something that happens on a regular basis.
For everybody. Going on vacation, you plan for the vacation.
Sure.
How am I getting to the airport? What time's the flight? Who's going to pick me up? Where am I staying? What am I going to do there? That's called planning. So if you're going to plan for your weekend of playing golf or going to the beach or this, that, or the other, why wouldn't you think about planning what your 401k is going to do to you? Or if it goes up, or if you have a plan if the market changes and this election changes everything and the market starts going, the rates drop and everything. Do you have a plan in place? And at the end of the day, that's the number one thing when it comes to retirement. Do you have a contingency plan, and are you diversified?
When it comes to that 401k question and whether or not it's going to be here in 10 years, because supposedly it only helps the wealthy, if they take that away, then people are basically left to Social Security as being the one. I'm going to use a government perspective here, where it's kind of a guarantee based off of what you've put into it. But they're kind of really putting it back in this scenario of, does this actually help those who are maybe not the wealthy ones, or does it actually hurt them a little bit more because there's really not a place for them to do more planning on top of just Social Security as their one sole source of retirement income?
I personally think it's going to affect everybody. I mean, if this actually comes to fruition, which I'm praying to the good Lord it doesn't, but it takes away the opportunities for the if they want to call them the lower or the middle class, to make it easy to start saving for retirement. I can't tell you how many college kids right now I have as clients putting in $50 a week to their Roth IRA.
Yeah.
These kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. It's $200 a month, basically $3,000 a year. It's a sacrifice that they've made. But guess what? They made that sacrifice, and they're allowed to do that sacrifice because they know, hey, at least I'm saving. I'm doing something. You take that away from them. Heck with the rich. How about the other people? I mean, it's a double-way street. I mean, you take French fries off the board at McDonald's, I mean, all hell will break loose.
Yeah.
But they're okay with that because, it's got too much cholesterol and you can't have that. Well, heck with that.
Right. One of the things about when people start looking at their retirement portfolios, and you are in situations where maybe you are, 62 years old, you're still working, you're still putting money into that 401k, yet you are at a position where you can start maybe withdrawing some of that money to set it up to work better for you in the future. What are some of the ways that people can look at that as kind of using the 401k itself as, I would say, the double win? So you're able to, again, put money in where maybe you have an employer match of 50% up to a certain amount of your salary. And then you can also take out on the other side and put it into other places to help on the tax part of things.
Great question, Jeff. And first of all, if you find someone with a 50% match, let me know because I'm going to apply there tomorrow.
Right.
And that's just unheard of. But when it comes to options with your 401k, you have to ask yourself, okay, let's just use a simple number of 200,000.
Yep.
You have 200,000 in your 401k. Ask yourself, in 3 years from now, you're 62, now you're 65, you're getting ready to go on Medicare, and that 200,000 is still worth 200,000. How are you going to feel? If the 200,000 is worth 400,000, how are you going to feel? And if the 200,000 is worth 100,000, how are you going to feel? I call that the stress test.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, of course I want the 400,000 because that's the one they always have.
Who wouldn't? Right.
But can you put a guarantee mark on that? Can you put a assurance on that? There's ways to assure that your money is going to go up without going down through different products such as annuities and stuff that you're going to get up, you're going to get upside and downside. Not like a downside is like if the market goes up 36% this year, your annuity might only go up like 10 or 14%. Okay, you lost that 22%. But next year, if the market goes down 36%, guess what? You didn't lose anything. You stayed stable. And now that account that went up 36 and is now down 36 has to go back up 42 to get back to where it was originally. How long is that going to take? So ask yourself with your portfolio and doing an in-service distribution, a partial 401k rollover is, what do you want that money to look like in 3 years or 5 years or 7 years? If you want it guaranteed, insured, and protected, we can help you. If you're like, well, it is what it is, I'm gonna hit that 3 wood from 290 and just over the water and try to be like Tin Cup, and it takes you 10 times to do it. Well, great. 1 out of 10 is not very good odds. I mean, if it was 9 out of 10, then I would do it every single time. But is the risk worth the reward? Well, and with these economics doing this with the 401k, saying it might be gone in 10 years. I should have started the whole podcast out with this. Is this just another mechanism of fear? And they put fear in the name of people. And you can't live life under fear because, as the Dalai Lama once said, and I'll say this on every podcast at some point, there's 2 days of the year you can't change. You can't change yesterday and you can't change tomorrow.
Exactly. And just worry about what's going on today and make sure that you're planning properly. You talked about the sacrifice part. If the sacrifice is literally coming in to spend an hour with you, Dolph, and looking over the portfolio to make sure that everything's lined up the way that it should be, when stories like this come out about the idea that 401ks could go away or IRAs could go away, it's something that may not bother you near as much because you know that, well, I know that I'm going to be taken care of regardless of what these types of programs are going to force me into, so to speak.
100%. I mean, 3 columns. You got your guaranteed column, you got your what if column, and you do the I don't care blank column.
Yeah.
Where do you want to put your portfolio? Think about it with life.
Yeah.
It's like if you're running that stop sign, and I don't know how it is in Atlanta these days, but here in North Carolina, people, that light turns red, they feel like they have another 3 seconds, they can still go flying through there. I don't like flying through that light because, there's someone else. I'm looking all the ways, and Is the risk getting crushed or getting a ticket or getting even more injured worth that reward of saving 5 seconds so you can be at the next stoplight? That's the same as your portfolio. Is that risk worth the reward at the end of the day? If you can live with losing money and you can live with the fear, then have no problems with it.
Well, listen, if you want to talk to Dolph and get more information about how to make sure that your retirement plan is set in the right direction, then get in touch right now. Go to the website, guardyoursavings.com. Again, guardyoursavings.com. This has been the Guard Your Savings podcast with Dolph Janis, financial professional. My name is Jeff Miles. Dolph, always a pleasure. Until next time, make sure you keep hitting them straight, okay?
Hey, no worries, man. Take care. God bless.
By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Randall Janis, North Carolina Insurance License number 8483456. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Dolph Janis is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Dolph Janis is licensed in your state, please call 704-919-0149.